Hey everybody, Tanner Larsson here, and welcome back to the Optimized Ecommerce Podcast. Very glad to be here with you guys today, and I'm joined by a very cool guest. Owns a company called Archive, and they do some very, very cool stuff in the influencer and micro influencer space that I'm pretty sure you guys haven't seen before. It was pretty new to me. Very excited to see how this kind of unfolds in the influencer space and how we can leverage it in our brands. His name is Paul Benigeri, and he's going to come on. And today we're going to talk about basically how to use influencers in a completely different way than most people are doing right now. In the influencer space, you see a lot of people going after the same one. They're all trying to get that top tier, level one influencer there, and everybody's kind of hammering after the same crowd. Well, Paul's company comes at it from a different perspective and has found a way to really cast a very wide net and gather some really, really powerful influencers in a different way, and how the ecom brands are leveraging them to drive sales and not rely so much on the ad networks to bring traffic. And then the other side of the conversation is going to talk about, after using or getting these micro influencers and different types of influencers, how to leverage the content they're giving you in new ways to increase conversion, increase ad performance, and a lot of other stuff. So should be a good episode. Excited for you guys to hear it. So Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Tanner. Excited to be here. Excited to chat.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be good. So now Paul and I have been trying to connect for basically months now. We've just had, it's mostly been my fault. Well, we've had, scheduling conflicts and all kinds of stuff. So excited to finally have that on here.
Yeah, we're finally here. Glad we made it.
So Paul, to kick this off, why don't we just start with a little bit about who you are and kind of what you guys do?
For sure. We're going to start off with what we do, which is, we develop software to automate e-commerce digital marketing workflows. So how did we actually get about to doing that? Well, I actually was a digital marketer and ran a bunch of not so fun workflows on the digital marketing side. So my background is atypical because I studied computer science at Stanford University, and instead of going into, software engineering full-time at a tech company, I joined an early stage company called HVMN, which is a direct to consumer brand that sold on Shopify, trying to grow, trying to scale, just like many of you here, and spent a lot of my career shifting from an engineer at an e-commerce company to trying to build and scale digital marketing channels, right? Once we built the website and we custom built a bunch of stuff before we had moved over to Shopify, we had new problems on our hand. It's like, hey, how do we actually get a lot of people on this website? So, we built a team to figure out how to improve our website and how to improve conversion, how to do different things around that. We built SEM channels, we built SEO channels, got our blog from 0 to 250 new visitors a month in a year and a half, worked on Facebook ads a ton, spent over $1 million on Facebook for HVMN. Hopefully, that was really good, positive, way easier to spend back then than nowadays, and just got a ton of experience building these workflows. And what we found was that in order to succeed as an e-commerce company, you have to focus on speed, right? You got to test a lot of things. You got to launch quickly for your different campaigns and events. And there's a ton of gunky, boring, clunky apps that we have to use in workflows that are super manual. And so with Archive, we're trying to speed up all of that. But, really happy to share some of the learnings that I got over at HVMN, and also now working with companies like Four Sigmatic, Magic Spoon, and other really fast growing e-commerce brands.
Awesome. All right. So you guys do a lot of really cool stuff, but what really caught my attention, especially with today's environment, everybody is struggling with ads, traffic, everything like that. And then, so we're seeing everybody right now, you got companies that have never sent a direct mail piece in their life, all of a sudden sending direct mail. You got people who've never done a TikTok ad or a Pinterest ad or a Bing ad. They're doing all this stuff, trying to figure out what they can do besides Facebook and Instagram and, Google. Now, along with that, all of a sudden, in the last month and a half, I have seen the influencer topic just skyrocketing again across Facebook groups and networking groups, and every ecom brand in the world is now like, man, maybe we should focus on influencer marketing now, which, why weren't you doing it before? But at the same time, everybody's now scared, right? My ads aren't working. I got to find another traffic source. And I love influencer marketing. A lot of our brands use it very effectively. A lot of the listeners here know a lot about it. But what you guys are doing is a very, very unique approach to it. And I think it's, honestly, I think it's a better approach for 90% of the brands out there, because going after these bigger influencers is not feasible or realistic for most brands. They don't have the cash flow. They don't have the credibility. They don't have any of those pieces. But your guys' model of kind of casting this wider, more micro net is something that anybody can do and get results from in a big way. So can we dive into that aspect of your business?
Yeah, for sure. Nano influence, we actually go a level smaller in our terms than micro influencers. We like to work with what we call nano influencers. So let's define what that means for a second. A nano influencer is typically someone on Instagram or another platform that has between 1,000 and 25 or 50,000 followers, right? That might not seem like a lot, but when you actually break it down and look at the engagement, we consistently see nano influencers with, say, 10,000 followers with way more engagement and way better content than people with 100,000 followers. There's literally, 10 times the difference sometimes. So working with smaller influencers can actually, be pretty powerful. The other thing is that these influencers, they haven't been posting about brands their whole lives. You look at their feed on Instagram and they look like normal, cool people. Maybe they're living their life. Maybe they're talking a little bit about a topic or something pretty niche, but you're not seeing a feed post every other day about yet another sponsored post. And so they haven't saturated their audience yet. People really believe them. Most of their followers are their friends or family members or people that know them. So there's a lot of authenticity. It's kind of like turbocharged word of mouth, and it works really, really well. And how did we even start working with these smaller influencers? This was back at HVMN when we felt like working with paid influencers was like running the lottery, right? I remember we worked with one guy. He's one of the top influencers in the keto space. Really good content, really good YouTube channel. We paid him $5,000 for his first video. And to us back then, that was quite a lot. But we made $35K from that one video. So we're like, oh, we cracked the code. Let's do this again. Video number 2. First of all, 6 months to schedule video number 2. He had a backlog, slow to produce. So that's already kind of a pain. And then when he launched the video, we thought it was going to crush it. We were projecting really good revenue this month. And then we got like $3,500 worth of sales. That's not a lot. We definitely did not break even.
Oh.
I don't know, maybe
lost time and everything else is 6 months of waiting.
Yeah. And so it's like, what do you do, right, Tanner, when you have one sure bet that just breaks down like that and you really concentrated all of your budget on some of these bigger influencers? I'm sure you've seen that, but brands get into an uncomfortable situation, right?
Yeah. I mean, they also get to the point where it feels like that one influencer kind of sounds crass, but has them by the balls, and they can't, it's like, okay, I got this one that's working, but you put all your eggs in that same basket. It's almost the same as putting all your eggs in the Facebook basket. Look what happened there.
Yeah.
So, spreading it out, but I want to touch on one thing you said that's so true. And this is the same with influence, any type of influence. And if you even think of like people who have an email list of people that they engage with, typically the ones with the smaller lists have a much more relationship with those people because it's smaller, they're working harder at it, and they just have a tighter community. The bigger you get, the more impossible it is for that person, that influencer, to have a great relationship with their audience and their list. They can get a lot of people, like a lot of engagement, but it's not the same level of trust and everything else. So what Paul has done is basically they've tapped into this realm and figured out a way to systematize, because that's what they do, workflows and systems, right? The onboarding, finding, and engaging with these different influencers and getting them on board without having to write that $5,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 check. These small guys, they're excited to be reached out to. So you're changing the role there.
Yeah.
With a big influencer, you're just another company. They think they're the god, and that you're just there to serve them. Whereas you shift this role to a micro influencer, the micro influencer is going to treat you with the respect that you deserve because you're actually bringing value to them as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And because you don't have to spend as much, and for a lot of companies that are selling direct to consumer, you guys have a super awesome advantage. You have a cool product, right? People are excited to experience your physical products, and there's currency in that. And you have good margins potentially on it. So you can, instead of doing $100 or $1,000 trade, which is going to cost you $1,000 to get them $1,000 worth of value, if your product costs $100 and costs you $10 or $20 to make it, then you get 5x leverage potentially on your COGS, and maybe you have inventory left over, right? There's all sorts of things you can do to help justify the cost and really scale that. So how do we actually do it, and how does it work? So let's take it back a couple of years to when we were in this position at HVMN and we were trying out these big influencers and doing different things. We looked at a couple of companies and friends that worked at companies like Halo Top, Back then, MVMT was a great example. What they were doing was, first of all, launching new flavors all the time. And so that gave them the ability to engage with influencers on a consistent basis. And so they reached out to influencers every month and they're like, hey, why don't you just try this product? We'd love for you to try this product. Hey, you want to try this new flavor? And influencers tried the product for the first time. Not everyone posted, but the ones that did post and the ones that did get good content, they made it over to what people call a PR list or a warm influencer list. And what that essentially means is that they built a community or an army of these engaged influencers that really like the brand, they like the products, they've shown commitment to the brand because they're posting all the time, creating content, maybe using coupon codes to drive sales, all that good stuff. And that means that whenever there's a new campaign, a new product, these companies were able to just boom, send the product out to 500 to 1,000, sometimes 3,000 influencers and get a massive echo boom of authentic content and awareness. And so you could do that in-house actually, right? What does it actually take? Well, you go on Instagram and find some influencers. You can look at some smaller ones like Tanner and I mentioned, some people that aren't gonna ignore your messages, shoot them a DM, add a comment on one of their posts, look at your competitors, look at their top hashtags, find some people and influencers there, contact them and build out that relationship, send them product and just talk to them. That's really all it is. You're talking to them, you're sending some product, you're not forcing the relationship. And look, if they're posting great content, you can then evolve that into different things. You can give them more product and expect more posts. You can do these whitelisting relationships where you're using their account for paid social. You can pay them if you want some very specific content or a higher rate of content, you can turn them into an affiliate. But the big problem with that, not starting off, anyone can do this. You just put these influencers in a Google spreadsheet, use IGDMs, and you're good to go. But now, if you want to really scale that and turn that into a big channel where you're potentially effectively deploying, 5, 6, 7 figures, you're going to have to, either use some automation, systematize, like Tanner said, or like we did, softwareize this stuff. And so we built software over the past year and a half to be able to scale this massively. So we have a huge database of influencers, over 103 million influencers on Instagram or in our databases. We have some algorithms to find influencers, and we have a bunch of software to not completely automate, but largely automate finding, detecting, reaching out, tracking these influencers to make all of that outreach more effective. So brands typically come to us to go from, hey, we've gifted 100 influencers or 500 and we really want to scale it, or potentially we just brought on a brand, really, really awesome, fast growing, sustainable underwear company that was gifting 3,000 influencers. Now they want to get to 7,000 because they're like, hey, we have 5 full-time people and a lot of Google spreadsheets and too many interns. And so we got to do this differently. But it works really well. It builds an awesome community. And not only does it give you good, short-term gains in terms of getting that content, getting that awareness, potentially getting those sales if you're activating them in a certain way, but you're building long-term relationships. So it's kind of like SEO, where once your pages start ranking, they don't really go away unless you have bad luck with Google. Kind of like a similar spot with your influencers. If you treat them like real people and build real relationships, well, it's like networking, right? You continue to invest and that continues to reward you over time.
Absolutely. And guys, with this, if you think in this through, like you hear us talk about influencers a lot, different, some of our different 7 and 8 figure award winners are always talking about influencers, one of their channels. But one of the things, if you haven't done this, that management aspect that he's talking about, it's easy when it's just the beginning, but it turns into like a second job. And it usually is something you have to staff out for. And it becomes, in a lot of cases, it almost becomes more hassle than it's worth because it's not streamlined in a way. And the results you're getting, because you're going after the same influencers everybody else is, and there's a lot of noise, it's almost not worth it. This approach is
and the incentives are strange because influencers are human, and it's like if you're doing a deal with an individual person, not Facebook, there's a lot of leverage, right? If you build rapport, if you think about what they want, you're going to get a good deal. I have an influencer friend, she does, $50K a month deals for big companies, and she'll do the exact same stuff for free. So there's a huge gap between, the really expensive deal and the homie hookup. And so you might want to be like, hey, I want to spend as little time as possible. But that means that all of your influencers are actually going to get a bad experience with your brand, and you're going to leave a lot of value on the table. So when you're thinking about scaling this, efficiency can really kill you, because you need to maybe as a company be more efficient, but as an individual and in those conversations, you still need to invest in developing these people relationships, or else these influencers are going to no longer feel like VIPs, no longer feel like you're actually having a great relationship. They're going to feel like second-class citizen, and you're going to, get the, $4 signs on Yelp pricing as opposed to the, homie hookup.
For sure. So to take this back, like more of a, even to more of a beginner level of someone who doesn't quite understand this or hasn't done it, we understand, okay, you got the software that can go out and find all these people, even in, start the conversation and, see if they're interested in whatever. I'm a beginning store owner. I've got a store. I sell a cool phone case or whatever. What am I giving the influencer, and what am I getting in return? What's the basis of the relationship when we start?
So with this model, we really think that gifting type activations are a great way to kick off your community. Once you have the relationship, you can transform it into all sorts of different types of activations. You might have heard of affiliates, you might have heard of sponsored posts, et cetera, et cetera. But you need to start being friends with that influencer. How do you do that? Well, give them some candy, reach out to them and let them know that you have an awesome phone case and that you notice they have an iPhone and that you want them to try the phone case. And then if they like the phone case, they'll be happy. They'll probably post it and share that this brand sent them a really awesome phone case, and boom, maybe 50% of the time you'll get a really awesome, story of an influencer authentically tagging your brand and talking about a phone case, right? That's it. That's all you need to do at the beginning. If you do that, you'll get some content for your Facebook ads. You'll get to build some relationships. You can start doubling down on them, doing giveaways with these influencers, doing, paid content with these influencers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Giving them different phone cases, right? Maybe you have a Valentine's Day phone case that you want to do, send that to them for Valentine's Day, and boom, you've got another post or set of content, a little bit of bump in brand awareness if you're getting maybe 10, 20, 30 of these influencers posting for your campaign. It all kind of compounds and rolls from that initial relationship, which is like, hey, you have really cool content. I would love for you to try my phone case or check out my phone case. No strings attached.
Makes sense. No, so guys, it's simple, right? We're not trying to overcomplicate it. Honestly, when I first heard it from Paul, my head went into a whole different level of, we could do this. And then he said, oh yeah, we're just giving them the product. And I was like, oh, that's a lot easier than where my head was going, right?
Yeah, you don't have to think about contracts. You don't have to write up scripts. You don't have to do NDAs. Just ask for their address, tell them you want to hook them up with some product, and boom, that is the first step, right?
That's great. And guys, to take that to the next level, something we've done in the past when trying to go after any kind of influencer, bigger influencers or people that you wouldn't consider an influencer, but could make waves in your space if you got it in their thing, we'll build a care box for them, right? The more you know about them, the better. But let's say it is just a phone case, like pretty impersonal, right? And especially if you only sell black phone cases. But if you see that influencer is, a surfer, or they're interested in a certain kind of, like they drink a lot of matcha or whatever, something about them from following them a little bit, put some other stuff in their box, make it like a special experience when they open it. Even though the phone case is the focus, make it special. So they open it and they're like, holy crap, these guys went the extra mile. They actually know something about me. They gave me some matcha to try, maybe a handwritten note. Cool. Now you've created an experience that they're more likely, you're stacking the deck in your favor for all the stuff that Paul's talking about.
Yeah, 100%. That personalization goes a long way. And it's like, try to think, why does that actually work? Well, it makes people feel special, and influencers. So that's cool by itself. You're like, oh, Tanner, how thoughtful. I got a signed copy of your book. Really thoughtful. It's great. And then the other thing is they're trying to show off. So I might post on my story and be like, hey, I just got a copy of, this book. Tanner signed it. Like, look, I'm cool because Tanner went out of his way to sign this book for me. Awesome. So they're basically kind of like, you're giving them some social currency ammo, and then they're using that
they're an influencer,
to flex on the gram. They're saying like, look at these brands. They're doing all this cool stuff. Like, did you get a handwritten note with some matcha powder? Look how cool I am. Again, I'm hyperbolizing a little bit, but that's the dynamic. People like to share that. And that's something that we really, really encourage brands to do this at scale. Now, no excuse. You can still send a phone case and it'll work pretty well. But you can increase your we call it opt-in rate or your post rate by doing these things that Tanner mentioned. It's kind of like launch your Shopify store and have a website, before you start thinking about and maybe blocking your launch because you don't have this checkout upsell or this other stuff. The first thing is get things going and get that moving. And then when you are doing this across hundreds or thousands of influencers, you're kind of, I like to think of it as having like mini billboards, right? Instead of having one billboard on the street in maybe Central Park or wherever, you now have potentially hundreds or thousands of influencers that are going to film or share that experience on Instagram for you. And so you can play around with the copy, with the messaging. If you're personalizing it and put some really interesting copy there, the influencer is going to share that. That photo is going to show up on their feed, on their Instagram, on their stories, and all of the fans are going to experience your brand through that influencer. So you're kind of activating mini billboards. And some of the best campaigns we've done were being really kind of wild and silly and creative with these, care boxes. One time we had a new flavor launch at HVMN. This is my favorite campaign we've ever done. And it was hazelnuts. So influencers got to pick their favorite, this product or that product in hazelnut. And we send it in a logo embroidered squirrel backpack, like plush squirrel backpack. So influencers got a brown box. They opened the box and there was a squirrel backpack and they're all like, what the heck is going on? And look, they're trying to create interesting content. So if you send them something interesting, you're literally making their job easier. You're making them more likely to post. So then these influencers are opening it up. They're like, oh, here's a 1-minute story of my kid wearing this backpack. And what's inside? This MCT oil powder that's hazelnut flavored. And, you've got some nice, cute copy that, emphasizes your brand and your brand values and all that good stuff. But giving influencers ammo to be able to post more exciting stuff is going to get you better results.
Yep. Now, guys, this also, if you're thinking about, man, I don't know if I can do this at scale or whatever. If you do your own fulfillment, yeah, maybe it's a little bit tough. It's actually easier because you can be more customizable on yourself, but you can also do this with a 3PL. Most 3PLs will work with you to build custom kits. If you just give them a spreadsheet of, here's the names I need to go to, here's the addresses, and then each person's individual order. Yeah, they're going to charge you a little bit extra, but it's totally something that a 3PL can accommodate. Yes, you'll pay extra, but it can get done, and it can get done consistently. And as long as you prep it out and plan it out in advance, it's not as big of a hassle. And you also don't have to go as elaborate as that. You can start off smaller or whatever. One thing, some of you guys that who have sent us product to check out and stuff already have amazing packaging and stuff. So you've already gotten experience just when they open the product naturally. If you've got that, you're even further along than someone who just throws it in a cardboard box or whatever. But taking that extra time to think about how you can make it special and how can you make it special from a generic standpoint. So you don't have to get quite so fine-tuned to every person. If I could make a personalized but generic package that goes out to 100 people versus 100 different personalized packages, it's going to make it a lot easier.
Yeah, and that comes back to the roots of advertising, right? How do you make a billboard actually interesting and memorable? What makes a great Super Bowl stand out? And so when you have this surface area, the first thing is you have influencers that can receive your product and post it. Cool. Well, that's an interaction. How do you supercharge that interaction? How do you turn it into something that's really memorable? And I think brands can be really creative with that kind of stuff. One other technique that we've seen brands do, and we experimented with at HVMN, is why just give that box to influencers? If you're doing all of this awesome packaging, you're maybe sending 500 to influencers, allocate another 500 as a limited drop for some of your customers. Maybe when you're launching this new product, add the people on your SMS list, let them know that the first 500 people can either pay a little extra or just get hooked up with this special thing. And that could be a great way to reward early subscribers, incentivize SMS signups, reward high LTV people, and just generally create some more hype and excitement around your brand, right? I think people are doing really clever things with drops and launches, and that's something that not enough brands are taking advantage of right now.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. So let's kind of take it from another angle now. Okay, I know what I'm going to give away, but what is, when you're looking for influencers, because this is one of those things that most people don't have any idea about, and that you do, obviously. So what is the, if I'm going to go look for influencers, you said from 5,000 to 50,000 ish. So that's a micro or nano influencer.
Yeah, even as low as 1,000.
Okay. So I'm looking for that within my niche. How many do I need to contact? What are some benchmarks or rules of thumb that I should be paying attention to?
Yeah. So when you're reaching out to influencers for the first time and you're DMing them, assuming you have a reasonable profile on Instagram, and you don't need 100,000 followers, but a couple followers, and just make sure you're showcasing your products right and have some nice photos so that
And
influencers can like and check it
are
out.
you DMing from your company or from a
Yeah, from your
personal?
company account.
Okay.
Again,
Okay.
if it has your products, you'll influencers will see it and be like, "Oh, this is a cool brand. This is a cool product. I want to try this. I'm excited about it." So if you just DM them, you might get 30% response rates, and you can DM maybe 10 a day. Be a little bit careful there because Instagram might rate limit you if you comment too much. So you can expect about 30% response rate. Now, if you start taking it to the next level and maybe like a couple of their photos, follow it, leave a nice comment, and then a comment that says like, "Hey, I just DM'd you, check it out," you can bump that up to about 60% response rate. So if you're contacting 100 influencers, you're going to get 60 that are going to reply. If you're just starting out, you can probably expect maybe half of those influencers to be interested in your product. Again, that's just going to range on how sophisticated your process and workflow is. We've obviously done a ton of testing there, but also your product, right? If you're a mattress company and your mattress costs $3,000, you're going to get a lot more people than if it's just, a $10 thing. But that's okay because you can give out way more of these small $10 things. So it balances out. And then what you have to think about then is the, post rate, right? And the quality of the content. So when you have this influencer, are they going to post? Typically, you can expect between 20 to 40 percent of influencers that receive the product to post. We've been able to bump that up pretty consistently to north of 60 and eventually north of 80 to 90% as we build these warm communities of influencers. But when you're starting out, you should expect maybe 30% or 50% as a benchmark. And again, once you hit that, you're onto something pretty good and you can start optimizing. But those are some numbers you can use to kind of like predict how much time it's going to take, how many influencers you need to source. Another interesting benchmark is if you are sending out, say, 1,000 products a month, brands, and again, it depends on your cost of goods, but we see brands allocating 5 to 10% of that inventory to whether it's seeding or gifting just to get the product out there, right? Like you can think of back in the day, you had these monster vans, these Red Bull vans all over the place giving people Red Bulls. You're doing the exact same thing. You're seeding your product to a lot of consumers, but those consumers just happen to have a better than usual following on Instagram, are going to be pretty good content creators, and can give you even more value than just trying your product for the first time and maybe becoming a customer.
Absolutely. Now we got the benchmarks. So the next thing is, okay, I want to make this an actual traffic strategy, not a one-time thing. I want it to grow over time. I want to start making consistent traffic from this and sales and all that. What does that look like? How does that become a process?
So now you got to think about your influencers as a community, and there's 3 segments, right? You're always going to have your new influencers because you always want to find new influencers and bring in new people. Then you have your warm influencers. This is what we call them internally. You have your warm influencers. Those are people that you've gifted in the past and have a track record of supporting your brand and posting, right? So new influencers can either become warm influencers or this final second, call it like churned or just cold, not interested, whatever. Just you have your new people, your warm people, and the people that you're just not going to work with anymore because maybe their content sucks, maybe they're not posting, maybe they ghosted you. And so over time, you need to do a combination of rewarding your warm people, or else they're going to go not interested, but also continuing to find new people. So depending on your setup, if you have a gifting budget of 100 product a month, you can start off with 100 going to cold for the first 2 months, and then maybe in month 2 you can start splitting your budget. 50 goes to new people, 50 goes to your best warm people, and over time you're going to build up that collection of warm people. And then when you have a big flavor drop or a new launch, you can focus all of your budget and maybe double or triple your budget that month to activate all of the warm people that have really been great in the past. And that's how you're going to get these big splashes. So again, if you think of it as a way to grow, your community size, you're always going to have a budget for it's like a testing budget, right? You're going to always test and identify and find new influencers so you can build your pool of these warm people that you have great relationships with, and then eventually continue to either activate them on a continual basis or do these big spiky launches. In addition, when you have new products, new announcements, new flavors, new collections, all that good stuff.
Makes sense. So that part lends itself well to a company or product line that has a depth of product, multiple things to deliver or give out, new phone cases or 5 or 6 different products or, flavors or whatever. How about those companies that are, selling 1 or 2 products? They don't like, I've already given the product to 100 people, and then what am I going to give it to them again? Or
Yeah,
what do you do when they have
so look, that's just
never-
going to be harder, right? You just are not going to have as much flexibility with your activation model. If it's a subscription product, we've seen great success reactivating people and filling them up. Maybe you have one product and people are running out. That could be great. But if you're maybe a furniture company and you're just selling like one type of bookshelf and that's your product, then it's going to be a little bit more challenging. What you might have to do is move towards an affiliate model or move towards paying those influencers and finding some different ways to activate these people. It's just not a ton you can do, right?
Yeah, that makes total sense though. That's kind of what I was thinking was, okay, you have, let's say you sell one product. You send out, let's say you get to 1,000 influencers that you've got it out to. You're not going to sit on that same product again, but out of those 1,000 influencers, some of them were better than others. So maybe you go selectively to those and start offering an affiliate deal or something like that. And then the ones that were a little bit less, you offer, hey, your content's great. Could I buy a post or something like that? And then
exactly
have a multi-tiered, process for re-engaging those people to get more regular stuff.
And Tanner, I mean, from a strategy perspective, when you think about e-commerce brands, how many brands do you see really, really scaling with a single product ever, right? Even some companies that were able to scale like crazy, you can think of a lot of mattress companies, Casper, Lisa, that maybe they started with one core product and then they expanded to sheets. They
have to expand.
And so they have to expand anyway. You're probably going to get to a point where you're launching new products to, increase your LTV, have like different upsells and bundles and things like that. So in a lot of cases, it might just be a timing thing more so than anything. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, I think for one, was we talk on this podcast all the time that LTV is the name of the game, right? In today's market, average order value is the number one metric you need to be focusing on above all else because traffic is so shitty right now. But once you get that initial customer, you've more than likely blown any chance of profit on that initial sale, which is normal. But the only way to actually build a business beyond that is through LTV, repeat purchases, getting them to buy again, coming back. It's very hard to do that if your product's not, if you only have one product and it's not consumable. Like the mattress guys, a lot of these companies blew their wads trying to blow these massive companies up. They did really great. They got huge, but they weren't profitable because they spent so much money on that one thing and they had to roll out another product to create that profit.
Yeah, I mean, remember the narrative is like, hey, in 10 years, they're going to buy another mattress and we'll be right there. We'll get our LTV, we'll break even.
How are we going to survive the 9 years it takes for them to buy the next mattress?
I mean, that's a lot of cash flow.
Correct. So yeah, having another product to come out with, or, getting creative about it. I personally, I'm a big fan of, very selective affiliate marketing and stuff. Most affiliate programs are a joke. Not just the program, but you're going to get 1,000 affiliates. 3 of them are worth a damn, right? The rest of them are just a joke. But if you go through your influencer model and you're getting sales from these influencers and it's working, and then you incentivize them with the commission, they're not changing their marketing strategy. They're doing the exact same thing they've done, but now they're more incentivized to do more of it. Now you're basically kind of putting the influencer marketing on steroids because now that they're more incentivized, they're getting a piece of the action, but you're not having to train someone to be an affiliate or hope that they do affiliate marketing the right way. And that is a way to really build a lot more long-term traffic. And I'm a big fan of anything that's alternative traffic besides the big networks.
And that's exactly how we see nano influencer communities fitting in, right? You're building this community and ideally you're profitable in a lot of cases or break even depending on how aggressive you want to be on those gifting activations. You're generating sales, you're generating content, but that's not where you should go. Brands that constantly crush are doubling down on this community in a number of ways. There's 2 ways. The first one is going to be UGC, the content created and the output. And the second one is those relationships. Like you said, Tanner, these brands are also running affiliate programs, also running whitelisting programs, also running ambassador programs. And they're using this nano influencer community to kind of seed all of these other programs. If you're running an affiliate program, what is your biggest challenge? How do I get more affiliates? I got to source more affiliates. A great way to do that is to run a large gifting program. And then you're never going to have to worry about finding more affiliates because your gifting program can just generate these relationships and warm them up and just pass them over to whoever is running affiliates. So with a lot of companies we work with, we actually do all of the gifting. And then once influencers get to a certain stage and hit certain sort of performance thresholds, we're like, hey, talk to this guy at this brand and we'll hook you up with like an affiliate setup. And that's a really great kind of like shared model. The second thing is leveraging that content, right?
That's what I was going to ask next. So I'm glad
yeah, let's talk about that. You've got all this content that influencers are producing. And to give you a sense of scale, if you've got 250 influencers you're working on regularly, you can expect 4,000 to 500 assets every year at the very least. We've seen way bigger numbers. And brands on Facebook we find have two problems. Number one, they want to diversify and find new channels. And number two, they want to improve their performance on Facebook. And I mean, I don't need to say it, but Tanner, like, what is the biggest thing you can do on Facebook right now to improve performance?
Testing creative.
Yeah, exactly. So you can do your brand creatives, but why not let your 250 or 1,000 influencers, try to be really creative and try to create content for you and build that out on Facebook. So we've seen that, strategy work really, really well for a number of reasons. First of all, UGC is very native. It can perform well. It can lower your CPMs because it kind of tricks people. It's thumb stopping. It doesn't feel like an ad. You're testing, creativity of 100 or 1,000 people versus your in-house team that just might have used up all their fresh ideas and creative juices, right? And then it's all about rate of testing too. If you're only producing 5 to 10 assets a month in-house, and there's Mother's Day, there's Father's Day, there's all sorts of events, and you're trying to test new creatives all the time, that's not going to be enough. You need to do a lot more. And one way to do that is to build an in-house studio like Dollar Shave Club and just do some epic stuff there. Or you can also leverage UGC, and that can perform really, really well, and just test some of the content that your influencers and your customers are creating. And I think that for brands, in many cases, even just ramping up the amount and the speed at which they test with UGC or with brand content would increase performance. And UGC is just a really quick, easy way to do that.
And the other side of this, guy, or not the other side of it, but another way to look at it is, he's talking about, testing lots of influencers, you're doing 100 a month or whatever the scale is you're going to. Some of those are going to result in good sales. Some of them are not. Some of them may post, but you get nothing. But if you like their content, create a different relationship with them. Say, hey, can I just pay you to continue creating content for us? I love your stuff. Can you make me X number of pieces a week or a month? And then not only post them, but then send them to me. Or another area that we've used this in advance.
Sometimes you can just tell them, you don't even need to post it. Just send it to me,
Mm-hmm. That's true. It doesn't have to be on their end. You just want the variety, right? Another thing is some of these influencers, and depending on what your business is, I'll give you a couple examples here, but some of them actually can write. And so if you're big on your blog and you're looking for ongoing content backed up with imagery on your blog, maybe this influencer can do that. And now you've got, let's say you have 10 influencers that you're creating content for you, and you've got 3 or 4 that wind up being able to write. Well, now you've got one piece of content. They could each do one a month. That's every one a week, right? Now you've got blog content. Another thing is if you have a product that can be demonstrated or has different use cases or things like this. For example, one of our clients is in the automotive care space, so they sell all kinds of different products to detail your car. Give the influencer, say, hey, can you make me how-to videos? Can you make me use case videos of this product and this product? And they just create all these different video assets for you that can be used as ads or website creative or vlog content or all kinds of things. And it's not someone you had to go hire. It's someone who's already doing this stuff anyway. We'll get the lighting right, the angles right, and all of that. And they're passionate about the product. And you can coach them if you need them to react a certain way or say, don't say this, but say this kind of thing. Why not? And you've already created the relationship. So this is just taking it a little bit further. And the thing is, a lot of these guys, they don't get approached. So the fact that at first you gave them something and now you're saying, hey, can I pay you to do what you're already doing?
And especially the smaller ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Huge upside for them. They're maybe doing this stuff anyway for fun and just started posting on Instagram. No one's ever paid them to do this and they'd love to do it more. So it's super win-win. They have no demand and they have all the time in the world compared to some of these larger ones. So from a content creation perspective, these small ones can really just crush.
Absolutely. For those of you guys, a lot of you guys have followed digital marketer Ryan and Perry, and they own Survival Life, which most of you guys probably know if you've been in the space for a while, which is a big survival products info brand and things like that. they also have a site called DIY tutorials and things like that. How they find those people to create all that content? They emailed their list. They didn't even go find influencers. They emailed their list and said, hey, we'll pay you 50 to $100 per video, and here's the criteria. Boom, got all this content. Hey, we need writers. We'll pay you this to view. So they didn't have writers that knew how to do all these different survival things or build certain fires or escape things or snares or any of that crap. They just talked to their list and said, hey, we want this content. You guys are experts at it. You love this stuff. Do it. We'll pay you for it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as what Paul's talking about.
It's amazing how much value is being left on the table. I think another crazy thing that happened in the past couple of years is Instagram stories, right? Instagram has completely changed the content creation game. Everyone and their mom and their daughter has an Instagram account, and now you can post stories, they disappear. So consumers are posting maybe 10 or 100 times more. And there is so much great brand content out there, but it disappears, right? In 24 hours, your stories are going away. It's not like a feed post where you can scroll back down and see you were tagged a couple weeks ago. That disappears. And we find that about 50% of brands don't save Instagram stories at all. All of that content just goes to waste. All of these customers are giving free value, free great content, free ads, and nothing is happening. Brands also save it manually, right? Like, how many digital marketers out there are checking Instagram on the weekend, not because you're checking in on your kids, but because you got a DM saying that this influencer or this customer posted a story and you got to screenshot it, right?
I go get the screenshot, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun. And so again, when it comes to, I mean, I remember I used to do that. I remember, going on the bus or on a walk and checking Instagram, not so that I could check it on my friends or family, but so that I could see who's in my DMs on my HVMN account, and so I can screenshot that story before it disappears. And so I think that's something that we're really excited to automate because it just is a no-brainer for brands, and we just want people to be able to save stories automatically right in the background, and then when you want it, you can go check it out on your app.
Yeah, and then of course you got to figure out how to use it after that, but at least you have it, right?
Exactly. At least you can go back and check it out.
Yeah, this is great, dude. Okay, so the next steps for these people, like, I don't know why you'd want to go do it yourself, but if you do, go for it. But Paul, how can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to learn more about the influencer stuff that you guys are doing? And then also the workflow automation, because you got basically two sides to the business, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I think every single e-commerce brand should do is don't let your Instagram stories disappear. You can sign up on archive.ai. You can see we have a Shopify app called Archive app that in a couple seconds will automatically start saving your Instagram stories. Right now, it's free for our alpha program. And if you sign up with, put Tanner's name, Taaner, if you put that name in the code box, we'll give you another 250 stories saved for free. So go ahead.
So there is a benefit to knowing me, guys.
Exactly.
Hey.
Like, why would you let those stories disappear?
Totally.
And then if you want to get in touch, any questions about influencer marketing or e-commerce, shoot me a DM on Twitter. It's at Benigeri, Benigeri. Happy to chat. Always excited to learn about other brands' problems and issues. It's a great learning process for me to give some advice and thoughts and let you know how I'd approach the situation.
Absolutely. And guys, and we're going to wrap this up here, but I'm going to tell you that Paul and I are going to be talking offline. I've got a couple things I want to run by him for different client experiences and stuff. And maybe we can get back together with a case study after doing this and then, share some results of exactly how this works for some of our brands. So with that, make sure you're subscribed. If you're on audio, whatever, Stitcher, iTunes, whatever, check that. If you're on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed and click the notification icon, little bell on YouTube. And if you need the links or you want the show notes or all of everything Paul just said spelled out, go to buildgrowscale.com/podcast and you'll have everything you need right there. With that, guys, thanks so much for listening to us. Paul, thank you so much. It was great having you. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.